Hello, good evening. I need to carry on. We'll do the class in Dutch. It'll be good fun.
Yeah. Try it in Dutch. It will be Dutch to you.
I think so.
Okay, guys and women. Oh no,
Men.
women. Yeah, women's, not women's. No, it's not. Today we're going to talk about the shiva. And the shiva is very simple in itself. It's not as difficult. It's one of the easiest signs. The shiva. This is the shiva. Everybody knows it. It's a very simple sign. Let's make it thick. Oh, sorry. And we have some videos from our friend Michael Grubb. And there are two kinds of shiva. A silent one and a vocal one. The silent one has this important, it's a syllable marker. A syllable marker for closed syllables. So closed syllables have CVC, and when you read in Hebrew from that, the silent shiva is there. And the vocal shiva is a shortened vowel for the A vowel, the E vowel, and the O vowel. The I vowel is just this sign, and the U vowel doesn't have a shortened vowel. So we're gonna listen to the video of Michael Grubb. At first, there's two kinds of shiva, and he's talking about these two kinds of shiva. Okay, stop share. It's saved in pictures, I hope. There it is. Is it full screen with you? Yeah, full screen? Okay, there we go.
Two kinds of shiva. The shiva, if you remember from your vowel chart, looks like this. Two dots, vertically spaced. There's two kinds of shiva. One is a vowel, and the other is a syllable marker. And I'm going to write this up really high because we're going to need all our space. The first is called a vocal shiva. This is the one that's a vowel. The other one is called a silent shiva. And this one, in fact, is not a vowel at all. It's a syllable marker, and but they both use the same symbol. Now, in the next module, we'll talk about how to distinguish vocal from silent shivas, but here I simply want to describe them. So the vocal shiva is a vowel. It marks vowel reduction. When vowels get reduced, they can go from long to short, and they can go from short to a shiva. Shiva is the end of the line in terms of vowel reduction. The silent shiva marks the end of a closed syllable. Closed syllable. Let's get our L there. Now, if you remember, a closed syllable is of the type CVC. Consonant, vowel, consonant. CV is open, CVC is closed. So the silent shiva marks the end of a closed syllable. It'll be on the end of that last consonant. Of course, in Hebrew, it's in the other direction, so it'll be over here. A vocal shiva is pronounced something like the letter A in the English word Kareen. So it's a very fleeting, short vowel, Kareen. It's almost not there, but it's there. Not particularly, it doesn't really sound much like an A vowel or an I vowel or an E vowel. It's fairly featureless, but it is there as something you pronounce. The silent shiva is not pronounced. The vocal shiva is transliterated with a small raised E. So the rest of your letters would be down here with a small raised E. The silent shiva is not transliterated. Okay, now let's look at an example. Take two biblical names. Sh, lo. There's supposed to be a meme there. Shlomo. Shlomo means Solomon in Hebrew. Here we have a vocal shiva and it's pronounced Shlomo, but it's hardly pronounced, just barely. Take another biblical name. Of Ram. Avram, so Abram. Here the shiva is a silent shiva. It marks the end of a syllable. CVC. Here's a closed syllable. Consonant, vowel, consonant, and this marks the end of it. So this is pronounced Avram, not Averam, but Avram. It's a silent shiva, so it's not, the shiva itself is not pronounced. In this case, it is pronounced Shlomo. So we have a short little vowel here, Shlomo. So to recap, the vocal shiva is a vowel. The silent shiva is not a vowel. It's a syllable marker. The vocal shiva is pronounced as the a in Korean and is transliterated with an e. And silent shiva is neither pronounced nor transliterated. In our next module, we'll take a look at the rules for distinguishing vocal and silent shivas in text as you're reading Hebrew.
Okay, let's see some examples. Hey, wait a minute. Where's my?
Het gaat over de shiva.
Ja.
Puntjes betekent puntjes. Dubbele punt.
I thought I had it opened. Nou, dat is vreemd. No, not that one. Yes, strange. I killed it. I need to share again. Sorry. Cancel. There it is. Let's have a look at the Bible and some texts. If you can distinguish where the shivas are written. So let's go to Annotate. And we use the color. What color do we want to use today? Come on. There it is. Let's go green. Here we see. Can you read it? It's too thin, eh? A little bit thicker. Look. Here we see the shiva. And according to the rule, it's at the beginning of a word, so it's vocal. And you see here how they transliterate it. It's an upside down E. But in other, what Charles meant was that he's an elevated E, like this. So normally you have a vowel or a consonant like debate, and that is transliterated like a B. But when you have the shiva, it's elevated. But in Bible Hub, they do it like this. Bereshit. Let's see if you can find another one. Let's go to the next page. Oh, I need to stop Annotate.
Maar hij zegt, je spreekt het uit als een A.
Even
Dus
kijken
dat
hoor.
is een E.
Yeah, the question is if it's an A or an E. Well, we will come to that because in Hebrew he uses the example for the A vowel, but you also have a reduced vowel in the E and you have a reduced vowel in the O. So let's see if I can wipe this out, annotate. Where's my eraser? Erase it. So it's a good comment. What I heard was that in the lesson, Charles talked about that the vocal schwa was like the A in the word Kareen. But as I explained, it's the vocal schwa is for the A vowel, the E vowel, and the O vowel. So when it's in the word Elohim, you see it over there. Let's have a look. Draw. Oh, this one. It's still on for eraser. Why is it not listening to me? Make it thicker. Ah, come up. Now we have it. You see it over here. This is the E vowel, but we will come to that in one of the lessons that are following. I've just wanted to point out the vocal and the silent schwa, and on this page I can only see vocal schwas because they are all at the beginning over here, at the beginning of the word. So they are all vocal, you can hear them. Let's have a look at the next page. You can see if I find a silent schwa, just to show you in text, real text. Ah, there is one. Here's one. Over here. Wehi. This schwa is silent. So what we're going to do now, we're going to do to the second lesson where the basic, come on. Why is it putting over there? Kom op, dat wil ik niet. Ga daarheen. Nou kan ik het tenminste bij. Over here, this is a silent schwa. We will explain this in the next session with Charles, but I just wanted to show you in the text that the schwa is there mostly at the beginning of a word, sometimes combined with a vowel, like here the segol, and sometimes it is here in this second consonant. So more to that in a moment. We now go to the second lesson, distinguishing and there we go.
Distinguishing vocal and silent schwa. We saw in our previous module that there are two types of schwa. There's the vocal schwa, which is a vowel, highly reduced vowel, but is pronounced nonetheless. And there is the silent schwa, which is really a syllable marker. Marks the end of a closed syllable. The problem when you're reading is that they both use the same symbol, these two vertical dots. So the question then is, how do you know when you're dealing with a vocal schwa or a silent schwa? I'm going to show you three rules that will tell you the difference. And then at the end I'll summarize it, give you something that you can memorize easily. Now when I go through these rules, I'll also show how really there's only one rule. The first rule is the real rule, and the other two simply follow from the work we've done with syllables, just to show you how this develops. Okay, the first rule, which is our most important rule really, and it's our base rule, is very simple. It simply says that If the shiva is at the beginning of a syllable, if a shiva occurs at the beginning, it's vocal. So shiva at the beginning of a syllable is vocal, which means it's a vowel, it's something you pronounce. If it occurs at the end of a syllable, then it is silent. So it's not a vowel, it's simply marking the end of a closed syllable and you don't pronounce it. Let's take a look at two examples. The first one is shmuel, which you may be able to guess means Samuel in Hebrew, Shmuel, and this, according to our rule, the shiva is at the beginning of a syllable, therefore it's vocal. Beginning of a word is obviously the beginning of a syllable. So Shmuel. Now you can hear that you don't pronounce the shiva very much. Shmuel, it's almost like these two consonants. Oh, look at this, I forgot my dot. It's almost like these two consonants are a double consonant. It's not, though. Shmuel, there is a little bit there. Shmuel. If you say it fast, Shmuel. Okay, let's look at example of the other one. Lach, which means to you. Now, here we have a shiva at the end of a word, therefore at the end of a syllable, and according to our rule, at the end of a syllable, it will be silent. So it's pronounced lach, not lache, or something like that. Okay, that's our base rule. Beginning of a syllable, vocal, end of a syllable, silent. Let's take a look at our second rule.
Well, that's really straightforward. Let's go to the whiteboard. I can show you. This is the basic rule. Silent, syllable marker. Now we go to the next screen. If it's at the beginning of a syllable, and there's the trick, that can also mean within a word. So when you have a word and here is a new syllable and something behind it, then this is a syllable. So a shiva positioned here is vocal. So not only the shiva at the beginning of a word, which is by definition the beginning of a syllable, but also a shiva at the beginning of a syllable within a word is vocal. We will get to them some examples. And the silent one, oh, this is vocal. And the end of a syllable. So when we have a syllable like this, and it's at the end, then it's silent. And again, there can be something in front or something at the back. The example that he used was the word lach. And it has this distinguished kaf. Oh, it's a long, long kaf. And you see these two dots within the kaf. These two dots are silent because by definition, this is one word. So it's one syllable. And this consonant is the end of the syllable. And therefore the shiva at the end of a syllable and thus the end of the word is silent. You don't say it. Lach. Okay, I hope this is clear. Any questions about this? Very straightforward. So the basic rule, this is important. At the beginning of a syllable vocal, at the end it is not. So let's go to the example in the text. Again, at the beginning of a word, annotate. At the beginning of a word over here, This is a vocal schwa, because the word yehi, and you hear it, it's an upside down e sound, yehi. It's very short. Let's erase it for the next page. Let's have a look at another one. No, I'm not annotating, sorry. I'm still learning how to use this. I go to the big chapter, that's easier. There's a more nice example over here. So annotate. We see over here, we see a schwa at the end of a syllable. This is a syllable marker, and you have consonant, vowel, consonant. So you have a closed syllable. At the end of a closed syllable, you find the schwa. Again here is a syllable marker. So this is again CVC, and you see the schwa at the end. Here, Masria, again here. You see CVC, and at the end you see the double dots. Masria. Here is the beginning, but that is a compound schwa. So I think there's just good examples to show in real text how it looks like. Let's see what we can see here. Here we see again le autot. Again, this is at the beginning. This is the syllable marker. So the schwa is at the beginning of the word, and it's vocal, and thereby it's transliterated. This schwa is at the end of a syllable, CVC, it's closed, so it's silent. And again here, mo adim, and this is for later on, the next module. What? Yeah, ooh, yeah. Oh, this is verse 14. Oh. We had a discussion this afternoon about verse 14. I made a mistake here, so let's get rid of that. Sorry. This is a difficult word. Let's leave it at that. Okay. Sorry. We go to the next video about distinguishing silent and vocal schwa, to the first basic rule, and that's the most important one. When you see the double dots at the beginning of a syllable, and especially at the beginning of a word or in any syllable, it's vocal, you pronounce it. And when it's at the end of a syllable, it is silent and you don't pronounce it. But it marks the end of a closed syllable. So now he's going to discuss another rule. We had the first basic rule, beginning and the end of a syllable. Lesson 3.
Two kinds of schwa. The schwa, if you remember from your vowel chart, looks like this. Two dots, vertically spaced. There's two kinds of schwa. One is a vowel, and the other is a syllable marker. Rule number 2. Okay, the rule goes like this. if a shiva follows come on, there we go, follows a long vowel, then it is vocal. So the shiva will be a vowel that you pronounce. Conversely, if it follows a short vowel, then it is silent. Now let me show you how this develops really from the rules of syllables that we already worked with. If you remember, there's basically two types of syllables. CV, open syllable, consonant vowel, and CVC, the closed syllable, consonant vowel consonant. And for each of these, they can be stressed or accented. So CV is the open unaccented, CV prime, or what do you want to call this, is accented, CVC unaccented, and CVC accented or stressed. Now if you recall as well, I said that these unaccented ones are the ones that we can tell something about what this vowel is. And they tend, it's almost like these syllables all want to be the same length. And so the longer one, the one with 3 bits to it, is going to have a short vowel. And this is going to have a long vowel. The net effect is that they'll be a little closer in length in terms of how long it takes to say them, this and this.
Hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes, I said let's have a break here. Sorry about that. And I wanted to share something to stop because it's a long lesson and you may lose your attention. So I want to break in a little bit. He talks about long vowels and short vowels. And as you might remember, you have in the A vowel, you have 4 vowels. You have the normal vowel, and it's called the patach. This is short. Then you have the long vowel, and it's called the kametz, like this. And then you have historically long. Just a quick brush up. That's a kametz with a hey. Remember? And you have the reduced vowel. And that's a patach with a shiva. Well, the same is for the E vowel. Just to remember you, the short E vowel is the segol with 3 dots. The long is the tsere. And the historically long is the tsere yud, like this. The reduced is like this, like you see in the word Elohim. That's why you do not say Elohim, because in Dutch and in English, when a noun starts with a vowel, it is long, but we say Elohim. So this is historically long, and the same is true for the I vowel. Historically, Chirek Yud, Chirek. There's almost no distinction between them. And the shiva is just 2 dots. When you go to the O vowel, you have the cholem vav. It's like this. The long one is the cholem. The short one is the kametz chataf. And the reduced one is this one. So this is not an A, this is an O sound. Again, this is just a quick reminder in his lesson about having long and short vowels. Let's go there. So when he talks about short vowels, in a closed syllable, this vowel is short. In an open syllable, this vowel is long. So you can never have in an unaccented open syllable a short vowel. So you can't have a petach in an open or an segol. You always have the short ones here and the long ones here. That's what he's saying. I hope this quick intermezzo helps you. This is a repeat of the earlier lessons about vowels, but he repeats it so often that it's good to, and you have the U vowel, but have no space anymore. The U vowel is the same. It's down here. Oh, okay. You have long vowels and short vowels and reduced vowels and historical long. So now you know what he's talking about long and short. Go back to lesson 3.
Now, the stressed ones, as you remember, they can go either way. They can have long or short. So we can't really say too much about them. But the unstressed ones, this is a fairly good rule. CV means long. So open syllables have a long, and short syllables, or closed syllables, have a short vowel. Okay, that's just by way of review. Now with that in mind, let's take a look at an example. Now, I don't want to pronounce this, because if I pronounce it, I'll give away how I'm dealing with that shiva. I don't want to do that just yet. So we have this word. It means judging or judges in Hebrew. And let's actually just apply a rule. Here we have a shiva. So we look and say, okay, what does it follow? Shiva, if a shiva follows a long vowel, it's vocal. Or if it follows a short, it's silent. Now what do we have here? It's following a vowel. Okay, sure enough. And what is that? Holon vav is certainly long. So if it follows a long vowel, it's vocal. So this is vocal, so we pronounce it. So we'd say this something like shoftim. Shoftim. We would not say shoftim. We would not make this silent and say shoftim. Be shoftim. 3 syllables. Okay, now that we've applied the rule, let's forget about this rule for a second and let us simply divide this up according to syllables, or divide it up into syllables according to our rules, which you already have dealt with. So let's try and put our syllable here, okay, as a starter. So we have CVC, that's this one. We know it's this one because the default accent is at the end of the word, unless otherwise marked. So CVC requires a short vowel. We look here, CVC, we have a long vowel. So it can't be this. We cannot put our division here because the CVC requires a short vowel. We have a long one. So let's try this. So now we have CV, and it's long. So CV, long, unstressed, that's fine. Okay, so that's where our first syllable division goes. Now we look at our shiva. We see, okay, our shiva is at the beginning of the next syllable. And if we go back to our base rule, we see that a shiva at the beginning of a syllable is vocal. So, beginning of a syllable is vocal, which is the same conclusion we have come to, or we have come to the same conclusion that this rule stated. But we didn't use this rule. We simply divided up by syllables and applied the first rule about whether shiva comes at the beginning or end of a syllable. So really, this rule is just the first rule plus syllable division. Now let's look at a counterexample, or example of the other one. Now you should recognize this word if you take time to pronounce it, spell it out. Yisrael, Israel, Yisrael. And let's apply our rule. Here's our shiva. It follows a vowel. Which vowel does it follow? Is it long or short? Is it long or short? It's a hidik, which is a short vowel. And if it's short, the shiva will be silent. So, the shiva is silent. That means we've got a syllable here. Yis, Rael. Now let me just erase that syllable division for a moment. Let's forget about this rule. We'll go through the same procedure again. We'll divide this word up according to our syllables. So let's try here. So, consonant, vowel. We know it's unstressed because stress falls at the end. So consonant vowel has to be long. We have a hidik. It's not long. So it can't be here. We can't have an open syllable with a short vowel. Open unstressed. So we try here. And we have CVC with a short vowel, unstressed. CVC, short vowel, unstressed. That's fine. So our rules of syllables demand that the syllable division be here, which means the shiva is now at the end of a syllable, not the beginning of the next one. And if we go back to our first rule, our base rule, we see that a shiva that's at the end of a syllable is silent. So again, applying syllable division and the base rule, the first rule, comes to the same conclusion as this second law, the second rule here, that a shiva that follows a short vowel is silent. Okay, now normally when you start reading your text, you're not going to go through this whole procedure every time. I'll give you a summary of this, and just memorize it and you'll be fine. But I want you to see how this all develops, how it really is not as foreign or complicated as it may appear. Now, having said that, there is an exception. There's always exceptions, aren't there? It's the way language works. It's a live, organic thing that doesn't like to be categorized as much as we would like, perhaps. But this exception makes sense. It's not something that breaks rules. It just is more consistent. Lechna, let me write the word here first. This is a word that shows our exception, and the stress is at the beginning. Lechna. Now the way you pronounce this is like I just said, lechna, not lechana. And so let's apply our rule here. If a shiva follows a long vowel, it is vocal. Shiva follows, here's a shiva, following a tsere, which is a long tone vowel, should be vocal. But in fact, we don't pronounce it that way. We pronounce it lechna. So it's silent. It's marking the end of this closed syllable. It's not lechana. Why is that? Well, that's simply because the rule I gave up here is not strictly accurate. It should say, follows long unstressed. Unstressed vowel. Because this here is not this case, it's this case. And when you stress a vowel, you give it more time, you say it slower, there's a little more time, and so you can put in a long vowel. And so you can have your shiva at the end of a closed consonant. So this is consistent with our rules here, and it's consistent with this if we spell it all out. Now the reason I haven't done this is because it's simply easier to remember this as a shiva that follows a long vowel is vocal, and then remember that there is an exception. If it's stressed, then that doesn't follow. It will in fact be silent. And it's easier to remember it this way because most of your cases will be this. You'll be dealing with unstressed syllables, not stressed ones. These are rare. So it's easier to remember the common case and then just note in your mind that there is an exception. And the exception has to do with stress, which is not terribly surprising. We've already seen that here, that unstressed syllables have fairly hard and fast rules about what vowels can be in them. You stress them, and it becomes more fuzzy. So you stress this, it becomes more fuzzy too. That's just follows. Okay, let's take a look. I'll summarize this at the end if this is not clear. Let's take a look at the next rule, the third one.
Now you can hear me again. It's really simple and straightforward if you think constantly about the first basic rule. A schwa at the beginning of a syllable, of a lettergreep, is vocal, and when it's at the end, it's silent. Why do we need to learn that? Well, if you want to read in Hebrew, when you have a Hebrew Bible, or you want to study something, I needed to connect my board. If you want to read this, and you have a Hebrew Bible where there is no transliteration or translation, and you want to know, is this vowel over here? Does my point work? Yeah. Kom op. Je moet helemaal naar beneden. Over here, do I pronounce this double marker or not? Or do I pronounce this one? And sometimes they are next to each other. So when you want to read out a word like this, you need to first understand what are the vowels in the word and what are the syllables. So in this phase of your learning Hebrew, and of course you start with the letters, that's evident, but you need to understand with vowels, am I looking at a long vowel or am I looking at a short vowel? And is the syllable open or is the syllable closed? Because if you want to pronounce the Hebrew word, these are the basics. That's why there is so much time and effort going into learning the language. And I know it's a lot of work and it's not yet coming to you. You are, let's say this, the text is not coming to you. You are still approaching the text because it takes away at the time to get on your way. So after learning the letters, we have learned the vowels, and the major difference is to understand if it's long or if it's short. And then you have started to understand syllables. Are they open or are they closed? And when you look at that words in the Bible, you start to understand, like for instance this word, uben, you immediately start to see CVC. Like over here, a bait, and this is a tseriut, and this is a noon. So this is CVC. That is how your mind works. Your mind starts to understand these things. If you do it, if you practice in reading, and you understand that the syllable marker is over here, u, ben, then you start understanding the language. And this is again, hayom. So here is the syllable marker. So this is CV, and this is CVC. No, actually not correctly, but this one yod is combined with it. Make a mistake, sorry. But you understand my point? When you study from the Hebrew Bible Hub, you can see these points, and these help you to understand where the syllable markers in the text are. And when you see them, you can understand, for instance, this one, is this shava now vocal or is it silent? And here are two shavas. Are they vocal or are they silent? And of course, you can have a peek at this one. Ule moadim. If you say it out loud, I haven't got a clue what the word means, but I see it's seasons. But when you look at the vowel, at the shavas, the first one is there, and the second one is not. So this is silent, the second one, and the first one is vocal. I only say this to you so you help you understand that when you study the Bible and you start learning Hebrew, you learn the basics of the language by going letters, vowels, open and closed. And you will find this. Here are again, a shava is here. Here's the one. So we know at the beginning, le, and then mem, and this one at the end of a closed syllable, mem, mem. So it's silent. So it will get better when you start practicing reading, not just doing handwritten exercises, although that is very helpful. But when you start reading out loud the text, using, for instance, Bible Hub. In the beginning, it's okay to do that, to use Bible Hub, because it helps you to see where the syllables are. And you look at the text, you try to find it out, and then you see the blue text and you say, okay, that's the way how to pronounce it. Because we do this to learn how to speak it. And when you speak it, it's getting more powerful in your life. So I don't know if you are up to another session. If you're okay with it, I would go to the last session, I think. This number 4, and this is the compound shiva is too long. So I could do one session, and then we have all the basic 3 rules for the shiva. Let's do only one, number 4. Make it a little bit bigger for me.
And this is a rule that applies, that you apply when you have 2 shivas in a row. Two shivas in a row. That's where you have one consonant, you have another consonant, and you have a shiva on each. So you have shivas under consecutive consonants, another way to say it. Now, the rule is simply that the first one is silent. This one here, first one when you read it in the Hebrew order, which is this way, of course. First one is silent, and the second one is vocal. Too many streaks here. Second one is vocal. Let's take a look at an example. The word Carmeli, make sure I spelled that right. Carmeli means someone from Carmel, from the area of Carmel. According to our rule, this is silent and this is vocal. First one silent, second one is vocal. Now let's forget about this for a moment and apply our rules of syllable division, just like we did in the other rule there. Let's try and put a syllable division here. So we have consonant, vowel. It's unstressed because stress is at the end. We know from our rules of syllables that this has to be long, but it's short. A patach is a short vowel, so we cannot put our vowel or syllable division there. So let's get rid of all this. So the only other option here is to put it here. And so we have CVC, CVC, CVC. This needs to be short, and in fact it is short, so that's permitted. Carmeli. Now, we have our syllable division according to our rules of syllables. Let's apply our first rule. And just to be really pedantic, I'm going to go back and take a look at it again. Shiva at the beginning of a syllable is vocal, at the end is silent. Shiva at the beginning of a syllable is vocal. This one's at the beginning of the next syllable, so this is vocal. Shiva at the end is silent. And in fact, that follows, that is consistent with our rule here. So this rule really is, again, a combination of syllable division and our base rule, just like our second rule of distinguishing vocal from silent shivas. Now, like our second rule, there is an exception. But there's some logic to the exception, which is good. Let me give a word write down a word here that will exhibit this. Yalad. Yalad. Now this means you bore in the past tense, meaning you bore a child, speaking to a woman. It's a second person feminine singular. And the rule here is that if the 2 shivas occur at the end of a word, like this does, there's no more letters here, then they're both silent. Now, we can kind of see what's going on here. If we put our syllable division here, if you work through your syllable rules, you'll see that if you got two shivas, the syllable division comes between them. It has to. Here we have CV, an open syllable with a long vowel, CVC, unstressed, short, so that's all valid. And so we have our syllable division here. So this will be silent. No problem there. That's what we expect from both our rule and from our syllable division that we've already been through. This is silent. The anomaly comes at the end. This one is, in fact, not vocal. Our rule would say it'd be vocal, but it's also silent. They're both silent. And the reason is because it comes at the end of a word. And this isn't really a new syllable. Just know that. I guess really what's going on here is that this piece is not an open syllable. It's just the tail end. End of a word is like the end of a syllable, and so it's silent. They're both silent. Okay, I'm sure that's all clear as mud. Let's try and summarize this in a way that is a little bit more memorable. Okay, here is our summary. It looks like 6 rules, but in fact it's not. They're just opposites of each other. If a shiva comes at the beginning of a syllable, therefore also a word, it is vocal. If it comes at the end of a syllable, and therefore also a word, it is silent. That's our base rule, rule number 1. If a shiva comes after a long vowel, it is vocal. After a short vowel, it is silent. That's our rule number 2. If a shiva is the second of 2 shivas, 2 consecutive shivas, it is vocal. If it is the first of 2 shivas, it is silent. So these are our 3 rules, just split up into their pairs. Now, if you memorize this, I think you have it down. Just remember that there are 2 exceptions. The first being that when we say it's vocal after a long shiva, after a long vowel, we really mean in the normal case where the long vowel is unstressed. If it is stressed, then this won't be true. It'll be the opposite. It'll be silent, not vocal. Our second exception is if the 2 shivas occur at the end of a word, it won't be vocal, it'll be silent. Both of them will be silent. But I would memorize this. Forget about the exceptions, just be aware they're there, and after a while it'll be second nature anyway.
And to close up, I have found the word Carmelite. It's over here. And as you can see, there are 2 shivas here. Oh, sorry. 2 shivas here. And when you focus on Carmeli, you see over here, Carmeli, this one is the second shiva under the mem. And the first shiva under the resh is not vocal, it is silent. And I think that will be enough for today. There's a lot to ponder about, but the point is, when we did this lesson, I reviewed it last week, my reading went so much better. When I started reading in Hebrew, I read some Hebrew books without any subtitles or whatever, and then you try to pronounce them. And when I understood the rules of Shiva, it helped me enormously, because that was always the trigger point. When do I pronounce the Shiva or not? And this lesson helped me very much to understand. So it's at the beginning of a syllable, therefore a word, it's spoken, and when it's at the end of a syllable and at the end of a word, it's silent. And when they're 2 together, the first is silent, the other, it's easy. Once you understand that, then you start to, your brain starts to develop the experience, and it helps to pronounce out loud the words. And I know it's a lot of theory, and I know it's in this beginning, these first lessons, much to take in, but keep on hanging there. We will get there. We will get it done. Any questions? No questions? No? Then I see you next week. And if you haven't forgotten, the conference with Dr. O is this weekend. So if you want to apply, please go to our Eventbrite page and sign up and go for it. You're welcome. God bless. See you next week.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Bye-bye.